Hello, welcome back. I hope that you're doing okay. We have reached a key moment in our indoor tomato plant growing journey and our indoor fruit and veg growing journey in general. It is feeding time, and I'll show you in a moment how we know it's feeding time. To hold back and not feed until this moment because it's not good news to feed them too early, but finally we're there. So we've got our tomato feed ready and our watering can, of course, and it's all fairly straightforward from here. We just need to read the instructions on here. In this case, we're going to use, this is an 8 litre watering can, but we only really need about half of this. So we're going to have 4 litres of water, which means we only need half a cupful. So this is 15 millilitres in here, but we're going to reduce that to about 7.5. Pour that in and we can get going with it. It suggests on here that we need to do that about once a week from when you first see those little green tomatoes. Then you need to increase it when you see the second lot of green tomatoes. But it also suggests that you may want to do it a bit more frequently if you're growing in pots or in grow bags, which we are doing. So I'm not sure exactly how to go about that. I think we're going to stick to the rules for the first feed and then we might try and up it a bit after that. But now that they're starting to produce those tomatoes, it is really key that they get all the nutrients that they need. So let's get going. Okay, so if you look on the ingredients of this, it seems to be, the key thing is magnesium, and it's also got nitrogen in it, various other things, but it's just the nutrients really. Magnesium seems to be really key for them. I have seen some funny things suggesting that you can put baking soda and stuff in with tomatoes, but I've also seen reports that that's not the best idea, so I think it's safest to stick to the real stuff. So we're just going to pop that in there. It's a very tiny amount really relative to the amount of water that you're going to put in. And then we've got this handy little hose on our tap, so that helps with filling up the watering can. And just fill that halfway up. Okay, so there we go. And it's worth remembering that you should put the tomato feed in first rather than second, because that way you're going to ensure that it makes its way fully through the water and is properly diluted. Okay, let's go. So our flowers have started to turn into these little green tomatoes now, and that's how we know that they are ready to feed. So this is quite a big watering can for these little pots, but we're going to see how we go with this, and if we need to reduce it down next time, then or reduce it, then we can do that. But let's go. You may also have noticed, if you've been following this series, that one other thing we've done now is we've staked the tomatoes. So we've got these bamboo sticks here and we've just tied them with some string to those to keep them up. That's because as the tomatoes start to grow, they get heavier and they're going to start to droop if we don't do that. So that's going to keep them strong and healthy. Interestingly as well, if you've been following this, you'll know that we've decided to prune some of the tomatoes, not prune the others, and half prune the other lots. And so far on this little experiment, where we have actually pruned them, the tomatoes are coming through faster than the ones where we haven't pruned them. So this would suggest that pruning them is the right thing to do, and you are therefore letting the tomato plants concentrate those nutrients on growing the tomatoes. And perhaps this is particularly the case in pots, because when they're in pots, they've got fewer nutrients to draw on anyway. Who knows if now we've started feeding them, that's going to change things up again. Who knows who is going to win the race ultimately, but stay tuned to find out. So while we're here, I thought I'd just show you our peppers as well, because we started growing these around the same time as the tomatoes. And if you look back, we used those recyclable fruit containers to start getting them going. We used the actual seeds that we got from shop bought peppers, much like we did with the tomatoes. And these are doing fantastically as well. We haven't given them quite as much close attention as we have the tomatoes, if I'm honest. I haven't even researched that much about growing peppers, but we've stuck them in here and they seem to be coming through quite strong. So we're going to start giving them some food now as well. So when I feed the tomatoes, I'm going to feed those as well. We've decided to start feeding on a Sunday, so we can remember, I think Sunday's a good nurturing day. We can remember to definitely do that each week, and if we add in an additional feed, we could do that midweek as well. So we'll put the rest of that feed that we've got left over on here and keep our fingers crossed that we get a good harvest from those as well. So one thing you might have noticed if you're as eagle-eyed as one of my viewers is that it's quite windy outside at the moment, and that was one of our reasons for actually growing these tomatoes on the windowsill in the first place, because we're quite exposed where we are, so they're a bit vulnerable, particularly because it has been windier in recent years and it is a bit of an issue. So although it's glorious sunshine outside, I mean we're in the middle of a bit of a heat wave, that wind is still whipping in, and so they're definitely a lot better protected on the windowsill. However, we've also had the issue of the sun getting really, really hot, and that's been a bit of a challenge as well. Even so, I think they've done better inside on the windowsill than they would have done outside as well, because we would have had to build some kind of shade for them outside, whereas inside, on the really, really hot days, we've been able to just take them out of that sun or remove them at midday. The only catch with that has been that when we've been out for an extended period of time, on a walk or something, we have come back a couple of times and they've gone a bit of a darker green colour, perhaps where they're not getting enough light. Luckily, they've recovered from that as soon as we put them back here, but at one point I was actually a bit worried about them and they seem to be going downhill. So we're keeping an eye on all the conditions, and the great thing about being indoors is that we can have a good level of control over those. So that's where we're at with our indoor fruit and veg growing and our tomato growing. I hope that you're getting on okay if you're doing your own indoor vegetable growing at home. Love to hear about your progress. Stay tuned, make sure you subscribe and check back and hit that bell button to get notification, because I will keep you updated about how we're getting on, and I really hope that perhaps my next video will be harvest time and I can show you the fruits of our labour, and perhaps you can tell me about yours too. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Do give it a thumbs up if you did, and come back very soon. Bye bye for now.